We've got Philadelphia, Carolina, the next game on the card, 7-8 on the rotation here. Carolina about -110 to -115 in this hockey game. The total is 5.5, shaded a little bit to the over at about -115 at 5.5 here in this game. And these are two teams that desperately in need of some points at this point in time. I don't know about Carolina. They're a team that's gradually fading out of this thing. They just have not consistently gotten any sort of goaltending that is anywhere adequate enough. I've talked about that so many times about this team where there's a lot of nights they play well enough to win. Actually, defensively, they're not that bad in terms of shots allowed, quality chances allowed, but the goaltending just continues to be truly a disaster for them. Look no further than the Boston game the other night. I mean, that's as brutal and painful and horrific a loss as you could possibly imagine. At home, up 4-1 going into the third period. Cannot hold the lead. Boston just roars back. 5 unanswered goals in that third period to take down the Hurricanes 6-4. I don't know. That's just a gut punch of a loss for the Carolina Hurricanes. Do you bounce back from that? Well, perhaps, but I'm going to have to see it before I can believe it with this team. There's no way I could back Carolina here. None, zero in this hockey game. They've lost 4 of their last 5. The only win was against Chicago on the road, 3-2. That's it. I mean, you talk about being able to beat good teams. It hasn't happened. They actually did beat the Flyers 4-1 a few weeks ago. It was the first game Jordan Stahl came back after the unfortunate tragedy involving the death of his young daughter. That was one of those emotionally charged environments for Carolina where they just fed off it. And you could tell right away that they were geared up to win that game for their captain, and they played that way against the Philadelphia Flyers that night. So from my standpoint, it's Philly or nothing. Now, the one concern I have with Philly here is they're a little bit banged up on the back end. I talked about that in the last show with Oduya, Robert Hagg, both out. But this is still a Flyers team that, I know they've lost 2 in a row at home, Vegas and Columbus. Columbus is surging right now. There's no shame losing to them at this point in time. Jackets are on a roll. Vegas 3-2 loss in a game that they actually outplayed and outshot the Golden Knights heavily. So I think this is a spot the Flyers can maybe get off the schneid and back in the win column here in this hockey game. I'm leaning to Philly. I want to see what the goaltending situation is first. I'm not thrilled if I have to back Alex Lyon in net. There are some rumblings he might get the start tonight instead of Peter Mrazek, but it's a lean to the Flyers. Certainly, I'll tell you right now, from a side perspective, it's Philly or pass for me in this hockey game. And again, with Carolina struggling with their goaltending, over 5.5 probably is something I would consider as well in this game. This is Andrew's game here. Philly and Carolina, one of his games tonight. Andrew, what do you see happening here down in Kakalaki?
Yeah, Ian, well, like you mentioned with Lyon getting thrown between the pipes tonight and Carolina struggling in nets as well, I'm looking for the over 5.5 in this one. And, part of the reason is I find that right now, Philadelphia, 1-7 straight up in their last 8 games, but they're 7-3 straight up in their last 10 games on the road. So, sometimes I'm a big fan, guys. Sometimes it's just nice to mix things up. If you're struggling at home, it's nice to get on the road. It's nice to get out. And I think Carolina right now is a team that's going to be one of those teams that has to put up those high numbers. I can't really trust them defensively right now. I can't trust them to keep a game low scoring. And as far as Philadelphia goes, to be quite honest with you, I think that's when they're at their best too, when they're playing those track meet style games. I mean, you look at Carolina's past couple games here. I mean, against Boston, a 6-4 loss. Against the Rangers, a 6-3 loss. Once again, the New York Rangers, pretty much a farm team right now, a 6-3 loss. So I think the over is trending really high between these two teams right now. Total's gone over in 5 Philadelphia's last 7 games when playing against Carolina. And realistically, guys, if you look at this Carolina lineup, and that's one thing about this Carolina team I've always said, is that as much as they do have a couple, first liners and a couple players you can count on, the depth of this team, you don't really know who's going to score. I mean, you could look down the top 3 lines, and it could be anybody. I mean, they have the players that can really surprise you each and every night, and I think that's what really looks for me when I'm looking at an over, guys. That's what I really look at. I don't look at a team that's so single-minded, that has those 1 or 2 players you can count on, because look, a team can just shut you down, and all of a sudden, blank, you're out. And I think that in a mindset like that, you have to look at a team that can be all around ready to go. And right now with Philadelphia, I think they're kind of forced to be like that right now. They're a team that I've always said that we're like that, and I think they're sort of starting to get away from that now. But in order to be a successful team, you can't be relying just on those top players. Giroux is actually probable for this game. I'm still waiting to hear if he's 100% confirmed. But look, I just think there's too much talent on this Philadelphia team. I'm a big fan of this team. I think there's just so much talent, and they should be doing a lot better than they are even. And when I saw those win streaks that they had this year, I knew that they were in good reason, and they should have kept it up, and they had the talent to do it. Picking up Mrazek, I mean, they should have a strong future. They should be a good team, and with Nolan Patrick just getting better each and every game, I really liked his role, guys. I think that, you know, a lot of people have such high expectations on these top round picks, and they think they're going to come into the league and just automatically tear things up. But people don't understand that in hockey, it's about not just the first year, the second year, the third year. It's about building a franchise player and teaching them your system and surrounding them by players like Jacob Voracek and Giroux and like those guys that can be good role models. So I think altogether, collectively, heading back on the road, I think this is a game where Philadelphia could put out some high numbers. Like Ian said, I would lean Philadelphia in this game, but I think between the two teams, I think Carolina and Philadelphia can get some numbers up. And right now, interesting stat, Flyers 5-0 in the last 5 games versus a team with a losing home record. So maybe this is all that they need. Maybe they need to get out on the road and just completely dominate a team. The Hurricanes are struggling right now, and they might need some goals as well. Over is 4-1 in Flyers' last 5 Saturday games, and I hope that continues, guys. I'm going to take over 5.5 Philadelphia, Carolina.
Yeah, I just saw that a minute ago. Finally, my goalie page opened up. I don't know why it was giving me so much grief today, but finally it did, and I see it now. Alex Lyon in net for the Philadelphia Flyers. So I still would go with Philadelphia. It can't be any worse than Ward and Darling. I mean, Alex Lyon is not someone I trust, but I would still go Philly, and I'd definitely still go over the total for sure, 5.5. I don't trust I got to see more from Alex Lyon here. This is not a Mrazek issue. Mrazek now is an above 4 goals against average in his last 6 starts with the Flyers. It's not been good for him, but this is not a Mrazek issue. This is a we're not playing good in front of you issue. That's the issue. So this goaltending move here for Dave Haxtell, you know, this is not a goaltending situation. You got to be better in front of your goalie if you're the Philadelphia Flyers. And you know, if they play like the way they did the other night against Columbus in front of Mrazek that night, and they play that way tonight with Lyon back there, the result's going to be the same. You're going to give up, you know, 3, 4, 5 goals, even against Carolina. I know Carolina can be offensively challenged at times, but if you still struggle the way you did the other night in front of Mrazek, you're going to still have a tough time if you're the Flyers keeping the puck out of the back of your net. Dana Lane also involved here, the Flyers and the Hurricanes. That's one of his games tonight as well. Dana, what do you see happening down here in this game?
Yeah, offensively challenged. That's a good way to put it. And then if I think that one team is offensively challenged, and I really watched that Philly Columbus game. I made a ton of notes on it, and you know, this is a Philly team to me that, you know, they've lost 7 out of their last 8 games. They resemble one of those teams that were down by 15 points. Got back, maybe even got a lead, and just couldn't sustain it because they didn't have enough left in the tank. And that's kind of the way I look at Philadelphia right now. And then we know how they go in bunches anyway. So are they reliable offensively? No, I don't think so. In fact, it was funny that when the notes that I wrote down, I wrote they lacked zone coverage. They had zone coverage issues. I didn't think they came out with a lot of intensity, and I didn't think that they won a lot of battles in the corners. And lo and behold, you watch the post game press conference, and 2 of those 3 things got brought up. Their zone coverage was horrible. The intensity level was really bad. So I think that if you really listen, and this is kind of a good handicapping tool. These post-game press conferences are huge. And the reason why they're huge is the players will actually tell you what they're going to go back and work on if they indeed do have a practice, or at least it's in their mind that this is what's got to be better. Well, when I hear the Flyers, who were still a formidable team, I mean, it's not like, you know, the Coyotes or the Sabres were saying, well, we got to be better at something. Well, there's a difference between having the ability to be better at something and just the inability to be better. And I think Philadelphia does have the ability to be better. And I think when a team hits the reset button, and some teams hit it 1,000,000 times a season, but when a team hits the reset button, the first thing that they do is focus on is focus on defense. And I think that that's what we're going to get from Philadelphia tonight. I think we're going to get a good, solid defensive effort. And I thought Alex Lyon was fine the other night against Columbus. Of course, he was only forced to make 18 saves in the game, but he made all 18. He's only given up 9 goals in his last 5 appearances. And the under in this series is 7-2-1 in the last 10 in Carolina, and 11-3 overall. So I'm going to go with the even money tonight with Philadelphia and Carolina under the 5.5.
All right, under 5.5. So Dana banking on this with this coach speak that the Flyers will improve defensively. Well, talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Let's see it from the Philadelphia Flyers tonight, and see if they can.
It's player talk.
Exactly.
It's not coach talk. It's player talk. So I know when the players got it in their mind, they're the ones responsible for that on the ice.
Yeah, they have to be better. You're right. There's no inclination. That's where the downfall has been for the Flyers during this losing run. It has been the play of their defensive zone. It's been absolutely atrocious. It's been miserable. It's not fair to hang this on Mrazek. I know Mrazek, there's a save or two along the way, maybe even more than that to be honest, that he may want back. But a lot of the problems have started with penalty killing that hasn't been good, and just not good positionally in your own zone, and just coughing the puck up too much. Those are all correctable. Flyers are going to have stated they're going to work on that. We'll see if it comes to fruition tonight in this game against the Carolina Hurricanes. And like I said, with Carolina's mindset, who the hell knows after the Boston debacle the other night? Who the hell knows what you're going to get from them? Are they in a catatonic, shocked state tonight, and they're just completely flat, roll over, or does that charge them up somewhat that they blew that game the other night? So fascinating game here. A lot of elements to weigh when handicapping this Flyers Hurricanes game tonight.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.